Bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs, we got Bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs, we got Bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs.
Bows and TKOs. We are live, episode 146, coming at you from the Valley. I'm your host, Shane Gillette, for this weekly MMA podcast, streaming anywhere you listen to your podcast with the videos on YouTube. We have one hell of a show today. We have some fights that have been announced. We will preview this weekend's MVP Netflix card, recap the amazing Card of the Year contender in UFC 328, and preview this weekend's Apex card. So let's jump right in. Actually, before we jump in, I'm actually about to take my first trip internationally. I've been to Canada and Mexico, so only North America, and I get to go with some family to the Philippines. First time leaving North America, super pumped, get a 2-week vacation. I don't remember the last time I had a 2-week vacation. Get some tropical paradise. It's going to be like 90 degrees and humid every day. So it's starting to heat up here in the valley, but there is no humidity. So that's definitely a beast that I'm going to have to get used to. But super excited. I get to go spear fishing, check out some islands, some waterfall hikes, nice resort stays, the whole nine. So definitely excited to break that down for you. Really trying to focus on kicking up my social media. I really hate social media. Wish I could hire someone for cheap or have like an intern to do it for me. I'm about to be 34 years old. It's just really not my thing. If it wasn't for Bows and TKOs, I would be cold turkey off of it. But working on doing some stuff, so maybe do some video blogs. I'll have some GoPro and some camera footage from the Philippines, so you can check it out on my personal page. But also means I probably won't be watching these live, as it's like a 15-hour time difference. So I'll have to try to catch them up. But I definitely will be tuning in to both cards. So excited to jump in. So we have a lot of chaos to this week's Apex card. It seems like that happens about 1 every 4 Apex cards. But we have a couple of transitions and some changes due to injury fight-wise as well. So first fight here around the corner, June 6th, we have Jacob Wilcox out in his bout against Marcus McKee. So insert John Giannis. I just don't understand how Marcus McGee goes from Peter Yan to John Giannis, or even Jacob Wilcox. I guess they're thinking pretty highly of him. Regardless, at least he gets to keep his fight date. He's put in a fight camp, get a dub, continue to move on. We have Cody Garbrandt and Adrian Yanez, UFC 329. On paper, looks fun, but what has Cody Garbrandt done forever? I mean, I think he gets KO'd cold by Yanez, and that might be the end of his days in the UFC. On June 20th, we have Giga Chikadze and Vinicius Oliveira. June 20th, Vinicius officially moving up to the featherweight division. Thank goodness, because that weight cut was brutal for him in bantamweight, and he was pretty much a worse version of Khamzat Chimaev after the first round. But he's taken on a longtime veteran that's pretty solid, so I'm excited to see that one. I think that'll be a banger. We have Michael Oswell Jr. taking on Gaston Bolaños that day as well. And then a week later, June 27th, we have Rafael Fiziev and Manuel Torres. What an absolutely fantastic fight that is. We have Abus Magomedov taking on Michael Oleksiejczuk. Oleksiejczuk's, been on a streak since he's been to the Fighting Nerds, but I think Abus handles business there. And then we also have Ismail Nardiev taking on Marvin Vettori. What a fall from grace Marvin Vettori has as a former title contender. He has to get this dub, so that'll be interesting. Moving into July, we have Brad Tavares and Marc-Andre Barrial. Power bar, Brad Tavares, 2 vets. I love the matchmaking. That's what I've been saying on Matchmaker Monday. We need to make that fight happen. I feel like 60% of the matches I do, the UFC ends up doing. I would love to be a UFC matchmaker. I don't know how to get into that. Maybe one day I'll be blessed. That'd be my dream job. I'm in sales. I have an entrepreneurship spirit. I feel like I'd crush it and give these fighters a little maybe more personable relationship that's not so cold turkey, but it is corporate now. There's a lot of stuff that the matchmakers don't control. And then July 25th, we get Walter Walker and Thomas Peterson. Watch out for another heel hook. But that should be a fun one. But let's talk about MVP Netflix. 5 p.m. Pacific on Saturday. It'll be running head-to-head with the Apex card. I told you guys my thoughts on this already. These are people past their days. They're big names that are getting overpaid. That's why they're coming to MVP. I doubt the product's great. I'm sure it'll be a fun event. They got some guest appearances. They'll do a whole spectacle on Netflix. But from what I've understood, Netflix was serious about getting the UFC one over. I don't know if they were going to take the full catalog, if it was just going to be pay-per-views, not Contender Series, not Ultimate Fighter, that kind of thing. But Paramount just said, Dana White said that Paramount just threw everything at them like, we want the whole shebang. And I think it's worked out pretty well for them. Everyone's saying there's no way the UFC brings enough return. I think that'll be debatable. Everyone says the UFC is not as fun. There's not superstars. I highly disagree. I've been talking about that pretty much this whole year because there's been so much slander on the business. And I just think when you look at the X's and O's, whether it's TKO as a public company, the UFC as a brand, the fighters, the skill sets that they have, I think you're full of shit. So don't be mad when you expect an awesome card here and the performances are very meh. But I'll give you my picks. I'm taking Ronda Rousey submission, probably first round by armbar. That's probably what's going to happen. In her workouts in front of the fans yesterday, she was showing knees and elbows. Maybe she tries to go for the kill. I think she dominates Gina at this point, though. Gina's looking good, though. Not necessarily skill-wise. So that'll be a fun one regardless. Why they booked Felipe Lins against Francis Ngannou, I don't know. That's the best they got. Francis Ngannou all day, probably first-round knockout. Nate Diaz, Mike Perry, that is the fight that is saving this card. Nate Diaz recently on the Ariel Helwani show this week, talking about all fighters, talking smack. He's an OG, he's done that, I agree. And you don't trash talk about the former OGs. He brought up a story about BJ Penn, my favorite fighter. I mean, obviously there was Chuck Tito, Matt Hughes, a lot of guys that I liked, but BJ Penn was the guy that brought me to the UFC. I was just so mesmerized by BJ Penn. And Nate Diaz like, I never talk shit about BJ. And obviously BJ definitely has CTE and has gone through some stuff. In the end of his career, he should have retired a long time ago. But dude, I'm on the Joe Rogan train. Prime BJ Penn, I would put to anybody. The flexibility, the power. He never fully took things seriously cardio-wise, but he was an absolute beast. Fought two weight classes up. He fought fucking Lyoto Machida and GSP at way bigger weight classes and gave them a fight. So I'm not going to sit there and talk the whole history of the UFC. Point being, Nate Diaz was never a top 10 fighter in the UFC. He's talked about some of these tin cans that have been thrown into the UFC. A lot of them have had some sort of story arc or have competed for a championship. I think Nate Diaz will eventually get into the UFC Hall of Fame, I'd hope. But he was never a true champion. When his best days were the Conor fights, and the reason they gave him Conor is because Conor could win those fights. That's what they were trying to do, because he wasn't even a top 10 fighter in his weight class. Is Mike Perry some fantastic OG? I wouldn't say so. He's a fun fighter. He's violent. He really thrives in BKFC. But I think he starches Nate unless... I'm assuming this is a 3-round fight. Let's look. See what the Google machine says. It is scheduled for 5 rounds. I'm sure Nate said, I ain't taking this 3-round fight. So if somehow it gets to round 3, 4, 5, he has a chance, absolutely, just by pure volume. But Nate Diaz is now 41, just turned 41 years old. He doesn't have power. How old is Mike? Mike, 34. I mean, Mike's in his fucking prime. That's crazy to me. He's barely older than me. Like half a year older than me. I think Mike Perry is going to get the job done. Is he going to get a finish? I don't know. But I just can't pick against Mike Perry here. Junior Dos Santos Rebelis de Spain is very interesting because Rebelis de Spain is a very tall, talented kickboxer. He's going to piece JDS up on the feet. Let's look at this as well. Because Junior Dos Santos was dominant, amazing champion, but the dude is 42. When's his birthday? January. So young 42. What is Rebelis, like 30? Oh, he's 37, so he's older as well. So maybe it's not as lopsided as I thought. Either way, on the feet, I think Rebelis, length advantage, probably durability advantage. But JDS is going to take this guy down, man. I mean, that's got to be the game plan. I mean, these guys aren't going to try to fight pretty, right? They're in here to get a paycheck. They're just going to try to get the dub the simplest way possible. What fight am I trying to think of? Yeah, Austin Lane defeated him and Waldo by grappling. Those guys grappling couldn't compete to JDS's grappling at 40, 45. So I'm going to go JDS. It's a nice little underdog play if you want to have that. Adriano Moraes versus Fumi Nakuta. Sadly, Muhammad Makayev posted that his visa went through. He could have made the fight, although that would have been the week of. They didn't want to make that happen. I would have loved to see Adriano Moraes and Muhammad Makayev. I have no idea who this guy is that Adriano's fighting. Adriano's definitely falling off a cliff, skill-wise, talent-wise, durability-wise, speed, power-wise. He's an underdog here, but I'm going to go with him. I mean, he beat Mighty Mouse. I mean, he's no slouch. Then we have Jason Jackson versus Jefferson Creighton. I do think Jason Jackson grapples to victory. And I like David McGoyan, man. That fight with Tommy McMillan, he's a young kid. He's going to be a stud. He'll probably be in the UFC. I expect him to win as well. The best fight, though, Nate Diaz, Mike Perry, absolutely. It'll be fun. See how the production ends up. Plus, it's in the California Athletic Commission, so they're going to announce fighter purses. I can't wait to see what these guys get paid. Enough of this Bush League shit, though. Let's talk UFC 328. Holy shit, what a night. I was strapped in on Saturday. I was in the pool all day long trying to get my base tan ready for the Philippines so I don't get burnt right away. I don't burn very often, but when you haven't really worked on that base layer, I had my arms tan pretty good, but my body was white. Working on my tan, grilled some steaks, had a couple cocktails. What a day it was, man. Picks-wise, I went 9-4. Could have done a little better, but I'm not mad about it. It's been a good year on picks here at Bows and TKOs. I know that a lot of people are just looking at betting vloggers and social media guys and trying to tell their bets. And a lot of these guys aren't super profitable. There are a couple that I like, and one day I'd like to get into that specifically. I don't really want to be a professional bettor as a career. It seems like a stressful thing. But maybe some small bets, try to give some advice if people want to take it. But picks-wise, I think I'm pretty confident in my ability here. I've been watching the UFC damn near since the start of it, almost every single fight card. And it makes it a lot easier now that it's on demand. But yeah, we're having a good year. Good overall. I mean, 893 wins, 438 losses, 13 no contests and draws. On the year, 113 wins, 48 losses, 2 no contests and draws. You'll know I don't just pick favorites. I do pick underdogs. I do tape when needed, but I watch enough fights. I don't need to sit here and watch tape. I've realized sometimes when you watch tape, you see things, styles make fights, and then you'll change your mind on your picks, and it bites you in the ass. So regardless, I mean, I'm more than doubled up on the losses. I think that's the key threshold. If they're 50-50 with wins and losses, not the best. If they're over that's good business. Correct me if I'm wrong. Feel free to let me know. But to recap this card, we knew this card was loaded. It didn't just look good on paper. It way over-delivered. I mean, the prelims were fantastic. Again, I was locked in from the first fight of the night. The main card was awesome. The title fights absolutely delivered, better than I thought. The crowd was sold out. New arena record in Newark. The fans were there. They were rowdy. There was a good mix of violence throughout the entire night. Some good back-and-forth showdowns. I love that. I don't like when there's first-round knockouts where there's no competition. I love the Tatsuro Tyra Van fights, the Sean Strickland Khamzat fights where there's drama. You get things answered. Can Khamzat fight 5 rounds? As the weight cuts get to him? coming to find out with Sean's shoulder? Like, how tough is this guy? We had a lot of questions answered. Then there was also the Chris Weidman retirement moment as well. That was awesome. You know, he's on the desk. He's got that podcast now. He does it all. You know, he beat Anderson Silva, undefeated fighter, for quite a while. He deserves the Hall of Fame. I think this has the edge of card of the year. I did look back at the previous cards. There are some cards that were pretty competitive. Yeah, I think 2026 has been a fantastic year. We have International Fight Week, potentially the return of Conor McGregor. I was hoping for John Jones. I don't have hope for that anymore. But the White House card, we're going to have a MSG card. We're going to have an Abu Dhabi stacked card. It's going to be a fantastic year. Regardless, I am recapping this an 8.5 out of 10. I was trying to think, is this a 9 out of 10? But for me, the 9 out of 10s, it's hard to give something a 10 out of 10. But those are the UFC 300, the UFC 299. Like, they really kind of ruined it. Because, you know, like UFC 200 on paper looked fantastic. But for me, it really didn't deliver. When I look at a card to give a 9 or 10, I look at what are the quality of names? How impactful is this to their careers? So I couldn't quite give this a 9 out of 10, and I'll get into a few reasons why as we break down some of these fights. But an 8.5 out of 10 regardless. And there was no good fights we did not break down. We broke down this entire card because that's how good it was. And as I expected, this started off hot in the early prelims as we had Jose Ochoa with a unanimous decision over Clayton Carpenter. And as I mentioned last week, the flyweight division just has so much fun young talent right now. They are very skilled. It's funny that the UFC almost got rid of the flyweight division because I think it's really kept the UFC alive. The Davison, Figueiredo, Brandon Moreno trilogy, so many names, obviously DJ before that. But now we have guys like Jose Ochoa who aren't even in the rankings that just show so much promise. Really young prospects. You know, some of these flyweights are getting in at a young age because it's not a deep division. But they've shown they have the skill sets and that they're going to be able to be at least contenders or top-ranked fighters. And Jose exemplifies that, only 25 years old. And in this fight, he came out very aggressive, knowing he would be too fast and powerful for Clayton. And I like Clayton. He's a well-rounded vet. He was in a desperate need of a win himself after back-to-back losses. But Clayton knew his best path to victory would be to take Jose down and hold him there. But he had no luck on the evening. He was 0 for 5 until the third round. He finally got one. But most of that is credit to Jose, who has a solid frame for 125. You know, he trains at a shoot box. I'm sure he's kind of maturing into that man body. I know I was a late bloomer. I wish I had the frame and like the physical maturity that I did in college and high school for high school sports. I really was in my man body my senior year of college, which was 21 years old, let alone if you're building muscle as a professional athlete. Like, this guy definitely probably is going to fight 135. I'm sure he's cutting a bunch of weight right now because he looked a lot bigger frame-wise than Clayton Carpenter, who's definitely older. But Jose came out throwing combos. He was looking for the kill early. He wanted that bonus. And Clayton was eating them. He was rocked badly, almost finished in the first round. But Jose did exert a lot of energy trying to go for that finish. Didn't get super overzealous. He was somewhat patient, which I thought showed some of that maturity. Because Jose rocked Clayton in pretty much every single round. But Clayton hung in there, man. He never quit fighting, but he was overmatched by the quickly improving Jose. I think he had almost a year off since his last fight. Looked the best he's ever looked, and that's what I expected. But very impressive showcase by Ochoa. Clayton is going to be in a must-win fight in his next outing, but I think he's talented enough to be here, to be in the flyweight division as he enters his prime as well. Looking at the stats, pretty much domination. Clayton landed 70 total strikes, 68 of them significant. He had 1 takedown in 7 attempts, so again, not much success. Only a minute and 7 seconds of control time. And you look at most people who fight 15 minutes, you land 70 total strikes, 68 significant. You could potentially win or going to be competitive, but that's the difference in the flyweight division. Because Jose landed 180 total strikes, 153 of them significant, more than doubled the output. He was 0 for 2 in takedowns, had a knockdown, and a minute and 9 seconds of control time. So Jose starts a new winning streak. He is 2-2 in the UFC. Clayton extends that losing streak to 3. He's an even 3-3 in the UFC. So what's next? I would love to see Jose and Ramazan Tamirov. He's returning after some suspension here soon. I think that would be a banger. And for Clayton, how about Ronaldo Rodriguez? I think that's still a very fun fight. So I knew that fight was going to be great. I knew this fight was going to be great. It actually over-delivered, though. We had Bowsandtkos Susurkayev with a round 3 submission via rear naked choke over Jordan Santos. And this was an interesting fight because Bowsandtkos, much like Khamzat early in his career, you want to see him go. You want to see what he's made of. He came out pressuring Santos early. They exchanged a lot of lower leg kicks. But Santos was game. You know, he's a long, lengthy fighter, shows durability. He was fighting back, having that long jab, but definitely some slower, sloppier combos. Susurkayev was kind of playing with his food, and Santos almost made him pay for it in this fight. But Susurkayev won round 1. Santos came back, rebounded in round 2. But round 3, Bowsandtkos went hard. He had some aggression to start the round, and his aggression allowed him to strike himself into takedowns. And once he got Santos down to start the round, Santos was just tired. Susurkayev was able to get it over with, easily get his neck. But hey, Santos is no slouch. I thought he would be more competitive than the odds suggested here, and that was the case. It could be maybe Susurkayev. He did say he wanted to fight longer. Maybe he could have got the finish earlier. It's hard to say. But I think Santos is going to be very competitive once he hits his prime. Bowsandtkos was more technical, more powerful, and of course he has a bright future at only 25 years old. Looking at the stats, Bowsandtkos landed 136 total strikes, 107 of them significant. He had 1 takedown in 5 attempts. Again, credit to Santos, defending early, but the aggression that Bowsandtkos came out with late allowed him to open up striking into takedown attempts. Had a submission attempt and 2 minutes and 16 seconds of control time. Santos landed 89 total, 78 significant. So about 40 less total, 20 less significant, and he was 0 for 1 in takedowns. Susurkayev stays undefeated. He extends that winning streak to 12, 4-0 in the UFC. And Jordan starts a new losing streak. He's an even 2-2 in the UFC. So what's next? Let's book Bowsandtkos and Jacob Malkoun or Yusri Belgari. I think it's up to the UFC how fast they want to give him a big step up in competition. I think both fights would be fun. The Yusri fight would be a banger. And for Jordan, how about tough alum Ryan Loder? Moving on, still in the early prelims, we had Pat Sabatini with a unanimous decision over William Gomez. And I did pick Pat. I did figure he was going to have to grapple. I didn't think it would be complete grappling. But this is kind of what I expected more so in the later fights in the main card. And I'm glad it didn't shake out that way. This was really the only fight that didn't really over-deliver. I thought Pat has looked the best he's ever looked of late, striking and with the grappling. I thought he'd be in more control of the fight and let loose a little bit more, but he knows how dangerous William is, especially the longer, lengthier fighter. He didn't want to take any chances on this win streak. William is a taller, lengthier fighter. He gave Pat a bunch of problems. He was very difficult to take down. He wasn't going to stay down. Pat couldn't keep him down. And Pat's a dude when it comes to grappling. But those long, lengthy fighters, it's so hard to take down and hold them there. And Pat exerted a lot of energy trying to take William down in the first. So he just decided to clinch up against the cage and wear on him to escape round 1 and try to tire Gomez out. Round 2 was a lot of the same. You know, the fight would start on the feet, but wouldn't last long as Sabatini didn't want anything to do with the standing and trading strikes, especially when Gomez is at range. So any chance he could have to close the distance, he did. But he was only 1 for 6 in takedowns in round 1, 1 for 7 in round 2 and 3. Massive credit to William Gomez. This guy is going to be a problem. But round 3, up 2 rounds, Gomez was able to battle back. He had some time to try and steal a victory with a finish, but Sabatini was kind of on his bike, circling, staying out of danger, knowing that he would probably win the fight going to the scorecards. But Pat fought smart. You can't knock the guy. He did what he had to do. It just shows how much respect he has for Gomez and how talented he really is. William is about to turn 29 and enter his prime. Again, he's going to be a problem. He will learn from this. He showcased how good he is defensively against a grappler already. But Pat gets another win. Huge for him. This was a big-time fight. Looking at the stats, Pat landed 78 total strikes, only 25 significant. He had 3 takedowns and 20 attempts. Not much success. Did have 11 minutes and 12 seconds of control time. Majority that clinch up against the cage. And William landed 54 total strikes, 23 of them significant. So Pat extends that winning streak to 4. He's 5-1 since 2023. And William starts a new losing streak. He is 5-2 in the UFC. So what's next? I say give me Pat and David Onama, as we only need one of them in the top 15. And for William, I like to see him square up with Chris Gutierrez. Moving on in the early prelim headliner, we had Roman Kopilov with a unanimous decision over Marco Tulio. Says that dog pick your boy got right. I expected this to be a war, and it clearly was. Roman was clearly the better technical striker. He had way more options and attacks, and he was way faster with his hands, but he was slow to pull the trigger early. I expect a lot of that to be because he's coming off 2 losses. He doesn't want to put himself in position to get knocked out because Tulio was showcasing impressive power, and he felt it throughout the fight. Now, Marco was just not throwing enough because when he got close to Kopilov, he would whip kicks at him or unleash like a 6-strike combo by the time he got 2 shots off. In the second round, I'm pretty sure that Roman had Tulio out, but somehow he was able to recover. I'm not sure if Kopilov was gassed or he didn't realize how rocked Tulio was because he could have got the finish. He just didn't have enough left, I don't think, because he clinched up with Marco as he was rocked up against the cage, let the round finish. Again, I think if he would have just poured on whatever he had left in the tank, he could have got it, but maybe he felt like he would have been too gassed from him. For me, I've watched a lot of Kopilov fights. I just really wasn't impressed with the cardio in such a big stage for him. But give credit to Marco and his durability. You know, if Marco could have been a bit more aggressive early in the fight, put out more volume in the third round, he definitely could have won the fight. Both men have bright futures. I'm excited to see what's next for both of them. Statistically, Roman landed 69 total strikes, 61 of them significant. He had a takedown, 2 minutes and 34 seconds of control time. And Marco landed 80 total and 62 significant strikes. So Roman ends his 2-fight losing streak. He starts a new winning streak. He's an even 3-3 since 2024. He's been active. And Marco extends that losing streak to 2. He's 4-2 in the UFC, including his 2 Contender Series wins. So what's next? Give me some Roman on Roman crime. I would love to see Kopilov fight up against Roman Dolidze. And for Marco, how about veteran Kelvin Gastelum? Then just now, that's an Apex card right there on the early prelims that over-delivered. Now kicking off the prelims, we had veteran Jim Miller with a round 1 submission via guillotine choke over Jared Gordon. Performance of the night, 100 G's to Jim. And this was a fight I got wrong. But what a story. I got a little emotional. I think Joe Rogan did in the post-fight interview as well. Jim Miller's son was announced the past few months that he had cancer, and he's overcome that. You know, having a young kid. Jim's battled Lyme's disease. It just seems like the hits keep coming. So really cool moment. But in this fight, Jared came out aggressive. He was chain wrestling. He wanted to get some top control time, which on Jim Miller is definitely sketchy. Because on his second takedown attempt, he went too deep, left his neck out. And Jim is just too good to do that. He was silly, like Dustin Poirier said. He jumped the gilly, and Jared was done for. Massive win. Again, awesome moment for a long-standing Miller after his son defeated cancer. Jared, though, brutal loss for him. He's going to have to be fighting to stick on the UFC roster at this point. While Jim, he could probably fight as long as he wants. I think Dana said that they extended his contract for 5 fights, and he'll probably fight till the wheels fall off. I don't know if he makes it to 400, but I'm all for it. Statistically, Jim only landed 10 total and 9 significant strikes with a submission attempt, and Jared only landed 8 total, 7 significant with 2 takedowns. So Jim starts a new winning streak. He is 3-2 since 2024, and Jared extends his losing streak to 2. He is 1-3 since 2024. So what's next for these guys? I'd like to see Jim and the young Chase Hooper. That's the fight I want to see. And for Jared, how about a matchup with Mateusz Rebecki? Moving on. We had Grant Dawson with a round 3 submission via rear naked choke over Mateusz Rebecki. I mean, this fight, you have 2 ATT fighters. It was a tell of each round. Round 1, Grant was standing and trading with Rebecki. I was a little surprised by that. And Mateusz actually resorted to grappling, which I did not expect, but not a lot of action. KGD started with a round victory. Round 2, Mateusz came out heavy, swinging, heavy. Caught Grant, damn near finished him. But Grant, basically knocked out, was somehow able to grab on a leg and recover. I thought he was done for, but Mateusz didn't show the technicality to get the job done. So it's 1-1 going into round 3. In round 3, Grant had a beautiful takedown. He took Mateusz's back and was going to work after most of the round went by Rebecki exhausting himself, trying to escape. Then Dawson was able to sink in the choke for the finish. Both these guys train at ATT, but Grant Dawson's grappling is thought of very high level. It's hard to escape Grant when he gets your back in round 3. I don't think either man loses or gains a ton of stock in this fight, but Grant is going to have a chance to fight up, while Mateusz is pretty much in purgatory because it's a very talented deep division and kind of fighting for his UFC life now. And Grant was very emotional after this fight. Another pretty crazy moment. Grant mentioned that his wife had a miscarriage, I think the week of the fight. So having to battle through that, I'm sure there was a lot of emotions, maybe some exhaustion just mentally. So huge win for him. Statistically, Grant landed 71 total, 35 of those significant. He had 1 takedown in 3 attempts, 4 submission attempts, and 7 minutes and 8 seconds of control time. And Mateusz landed 49 total strikes, 33 of them significant. He had 1 takedown in 5 attempts, a reversal, and a knockdown. So both guys defended takedowns as well. I would have bet $1,000 Rebecki wasn't going to shoot 5 takedowns against Grant Dawson, but that's how much Grant was in control. So Grant now starts a new winning streak. He is 4-1 since 2024, and Mateusz extends his losing streak to 3. He is 1-4 since 2024. So what's next? I mentioned it up top. I think Mateusz and Jared Gordon is the fight to make. And for Grant, how about Ignacio Bahamondes? Or if he is able to come back quickly, he could get a chance in the top 15 against Fares Ziam. Moving on, another fight I got wrong. I missed on the dog pick. We had Yaroslav Amosov with a round 2 submission via arm triangle over Yoel Alvarez. Performance of the night, 100 G's to the former Bellator alum. I mean, Yaroslav is the real deal at this point. He looks to be potentially the best Bellator transfer since Alexander Volkov. I mean, Yaroslav clearly just wanted to take Yoel down and kick his ass on the octagon. Yoel really wasn't able to do anything but try to get back up. And by round 2, he was put flat on his back, didn't have a ton of fight left. As Yaroslav smashed him up against the cage, kind of fell into an arm triangle, and it was just too easy. Massive win for Amosov. He's in the middle of his prime now, and Yoel gets a reality check in the welterweight division. He now has to try to fight back while he's in his prime. Tough spot for the crafty striker. And what I mean, he looks like the real deal. I mean, look at the stats. Yoel only landed 9 total and 8 significant strikes. I don't know anyone who's done that to Alvarez. Yaroslav landed 22 total, 16 significant. He had 6 takedowns and 11 attempts. If he wanted, he got it. He had a submission attempt and 3 minutes and 52 seconds of control time. So Yaroslav extends his winning streak to 2. He's 2-0 in the UFC. He moves up 4 spots in the rankings to number 10. And Yoel ends his 4-fight winning streak. He starts a new losing streak. He is 1-1 since he's moved up to the welterweight division. So what's next? Well, I think Yaroslav and Yarosh Medic is the fight to make, and that's an absolute banger. And for Yoel, how about a scrap with Randy Brown? 2 strikers, long, lengthy. That's a certified scrap. Finally, in the prelims, we had Ataba Gautier with a round 2 TKO over Ozzy Diaz. I mean, this is all I can say about Ataba. He is an athletic and explosive freak. And that was on full display in round 2, as it only took 1 shot from him to get Diaz out of there. The first round, both men were pretty measured. Ataba was pressuring forward. Ozzy was on his bike and tried for a few takedowns, but he didn't prevail. Gautier did a good job measuring up Diaz and found an opening. He showcased how powerful he is. It didn't even seem like it landed clean. It just dazed him pretty bad. But Ataba is going to get some stiff competition from here. Diaz is going to be scrapping to make a name for himself in the middleweight division. Statistically, Ataba landed 27 total strikes, 23 of them significant with a knockdown. And Ozzy only landed 8 total, 6 significant. He was 0 for 3 in takedowns with 1 minute and 3 seconds of control time. So Ataba extends that winning streak to 10, 6-0 in the UFC. Ozzy starts a new losing streak. He is 1-2 in the UFC. So what's next? I say let's book Ataba and Tresean Gore. Again, very promising fighters, still young and raw. We don't need to force them up. And for Ozzy, how about Wes Schultz? Moving on to the massive main card. We had King Green with a round 1 submission via rear naked choke over Jeremy Stevens. With the way King Green looked last fight, I had a feeling he was going to stunt on Jeremy. He's just too quick with his hands, and boy, was I right. What a fucking performance. He had Jeremy swinging for the fences and catching air. After piecing him up for a bit, he hit a perfectly timed double, got on top of Jeremy next to the cage. Just kind of shows his veteran IQ. A lot of guys, they're trying to close distance against the cage, chest to chest, grab up those legs, look for takedowns. Bobby was able to kind of float on top, sit in control, and just poured on nasty ground and pound before taking his back and neck with ease. King pledged for a bonus after the fight. Although he's not getting it, which I'm a little surprised, Dana White did say he is getting the custom Apollo Creed shorts that he's asked for, and I'm sure his next fight is going to be a big fight. But for Jeremy, clearly his days in the UFC are done. He has a record-breaking 20 UFC losses. I did think there would be a little bit more competition, but King Green is a problem. Statistically, King landed 64 total strikes, 57 of them significant with a takedown, a submission attempt, and 1 minute and 34 seconds of control time. Jeremy only landed 7 total strikes, 5 significant with a submission attempt. So King extends that winning streak to 3. He's 4-2 since 2024. He may be old, but he's active. He's probably fighting some of the best he's ever fought. And Jeremy extends his losing streak to 3 as a pro. He's only 2-7-1 in the UFC since 2018. So what's next? Again, Jeremy as an MMA fighter, PFL, billet, or whatever promotions, I think he's done. I think it's only bare knuckle or boxing for him. And for King, let's book him in a certified banger against Chris Duncan. That one would be so much fun. Moving on, we had Sean Brady with a unanimous decision over Joaquin Buckley. What drama we had fight night and the day before, I think, in this fight. A lot of eyeballs were on it as Brady went from a heavy favorite to a big underdog the day of the fight with the idea that Brady might be hurt. We've had some previous experiences with fighters announcing that fighters are leaked and then people betting on that. So I was a little nervous, but I held my ground. And Sean came out and put on, I'd have to think if it's his best display, but most dominant display against a very talented Joaquin Buckley. It was too easy for him. He came right at Joaquin and controlled him for nearly the entire fight. Not only did he control Buckley, but he dominated him. I mean, he was in full mount multiple times. So much pressure on Joaquin's hips. Launching ground and pound. Did kind of the DK, pound your chest, pop, 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 pop. But Buckley couldn't get him off of him. And he didn't showcase much technique to trying to do so. And it didn't seem like he had the energy to fight very hard. Buckley fought back up in the second round, but mostly Buckley was flat on his back. When you're getting taken down from a guy like Sean Brady, who's a high-level black belt, and you're just flat on your back trying to buck, I mean, even in wrestling, you don't do that. Like, what are we doing here? He's not trying to shrimp up, get to the cage. It was a weird scene for me. And Sean is that dominant. Maybe it's just his pressure up top is too much to overcome. But it was a kind of a disappointment from both fighters because how dominant Sean was, I thought he should have got a finish. But Buckley has hardly been finished. You know, he's in the middle of his prime. I'm just really curious if Brady is that dominant or if Buckley just wasn't prepared or just didn't show up. I think it's more on the Buckley side. But regardless, full credit to Sean Brady. Nobody has dominated Buckley in that way. And the stats speak for it. I mean, Sean landed 245 strikes, 77 of them significant. He had 4 takedowns in 10 attempts. So credit to Buckley. He did defend some takedowns. But after Sean got his first takedown, every time Joaquin threw a kick, he caught it and got an easy single leg. He also had 12 minutes and 9 seconds of control time. And Joaquin landed 21 total strikes, only 5 significant. I mean, Buckley throws 21 strikes in like the first couple of minutes most fights. So pretty crazy stuff. Regardless, Sean starts a new winning streak. He's 3-1 since 2024. He stays at 6 in the rankings. And Joaquin extends his losing streak to 2. He's 4-2 since 2024 and stays at number 9. So what's next? I think you book Sean and Jack Della Maddalena. I think Sean has fought a lot of upper division guys. With that win, he deserves to fight up. And for Joaquin, how about a showdown with Kevin Holland? Because then he doesn't have to deal with the grappler. I'm sure Kevin Holland would be game as well. I think they might be friends, so maybe they don't. But that's the fight I want to see. Moving on, we had Alexander Volkov with unanimous decision over Waldo Cortez Acosta. Now, I've been waiting, like I said last week, for Waldo to be somewhat exposed because he has continued to improve. You know, he's proven he belongs at the upper part of the heavyweight division, and he hung in there in this fight. You know, Volkov had a real chance to win this fight, but he just didn't do enough to win. Waldo had a chance to win this fight, but he just didn't throw enough to win on the scorecards, and I'm sure he is hating himself right now for it. Because in round 1, mostly Volkov was stalking Waldo down and striking at distance. If you haven't seen Volkov fight much, I mean, the guy, his nickname's Drago, perfectly so. Intimidating frame, really hard to close distance on, and was attacking him from lower leg kicks where Waldo wasn't even close to being in range. If you're going to try to outpoint Volkov, good luck. And Waldo struggled to get in range in the first. He's kind of trying to figure out the Volkov puzzle, but he was down 0-1 going into round 2. Wasn't dominant. It was just Volkov picking him apart from distance. Round 2, Waldo started just swinging big shots. He would try to step in close with like 3 to 4 strike combos, and he was landing on Volk. He actually cut Volk, had him bleeding a little bit, but Volkov kept trotting forward, was landing nice shots of his own, but they definitely weren't as big as Waldo's. So you could debate that Waldo won round 2, but I think most judges still gave it to Volkov on volume. And you could tell Waldo's like, fuck this. He was gaining confidence. He knew he needed to take some risk, take a few shots to get in close, and try to get Volkov to push back so he could let his hands fly because he was clearly a much faster striker. Well, in round 3, I thought Waldo won as he landed more clean and damaging strikes. You know, Volkov was just kind of coasting to victory. He was more defensive in this round, was backing up, wasn't throwing much besides that long stabbing jab, a straight kick up the middle, or those lower kicks. But again, Volkov's size is so tough to deal with. He was a puzzle for Waldo early, but again, if he just closed distance and let his hands fly, he could have got the victory, but he did that too late. Volkov didn't dominate, but he did really outpoint Waldo with his kicks and the jab. Volkov now still continuing to hang in contention. I don't think this really hurts Waldo as much. I'm sure he'll continue to stay super active. He's only 34, almost 35. But again, I just knew Waldo wasn't at this level. He didn't get exposed. He hung in there. But he's just not as, good as he acts like he is my point. Anyways, statistically, Alexander landed 88 total and significant strikes. He was 0 for 1 in takedowns. Waldo landed 54 total and significant, and he was 0 for 1 in takedowns. So Alexander extends that winning streak to 2. He's 3-1 since 2024. He stays at number 2. Waldo ends that 3-fight winning streak. He starts a new losing streak. He's an insane 7-2 since 2024. He's more active just as active or more active than anyone, and he stays at number 4. So how do we match up these guys next? Well, I think the UFC's plan would be for Tom Aspinall to get a title shot once he returns from injury. Eye injuries are crazy. Tom says he's getting back. Maybe it takes too long and that's not the case, but I'm going to assume he recovers. So Volkov then is either going to fight the loser of the title shot, or he matches up with the winner of the Hokit-Lewis fight after the White House card. And then for Waldo, I think the winner of the Taliesin Teixeira and Sergey Pavlovich fight should be next. So nothing concrete. They got to let the division shake out a little bit. But I hope Volkov doesn't just wait for the title and hope that's the case, because I think Tom Aspinall is going to get it. Moving on into the Flyweight Championship, a fight I got wrong, but golly. Joshua Van with a round 5 TKO over Tatsuro Taira. Fight of the night, 100 G's. I expected this to be competitive, but I expected Tatsuro, when he got on top, to be dominant, getting into serious submission threats, or doing some of that wild shit that he does, and Van was not having it. I mean, I knew Tatsuro was big for the division, but it really showed in this fight how big he is, and he has world-class grappling at such a young age. Plus, Joshua, he didn't take much time off from the pull-out like a month ago. I wasn't sure what his injury was, if he was going to be healthy. Joshua's announced that he had a pretty bad knee injury, which makes this win more impressive to me. I mean, something about his meniscus. He couldn't even walk at the time. You only give it 3 weeks to heal, and he didn't look like he was injured in that fight at all. So I just wrapped that up to he's tough as shit. But we know one thing about Josh. He has been super active, and he showcases world-class boxing. He's only 24 years old. He's constantly improving from fight to fight. I think he could honestly be a boxing champion. But he put his skills on full display. He had to overcome adversity in round 1. Tatsuro, as I expected, got a takedown fairly easily and was able to control Joshua. But he showcased great fighting and defense to get back up. I didn't think he would do that. Again, I thought Tatsuro was able to go from position to position and look for some serious submission threats, but that wasn't the case. Round 2, everything changed. Tatsuro was in control for majority of the round, but with under a minute left, Joshua landed a massive shot. I think legit knocked Tatsuro out. There's the image of him hitting the canvas and almost Frankie Edgar, his face was squished in. But dude, he's fucking tough. He's a warrior. A perfect example of a Japanese fighting spirit. He just scrambled, fought for his life, stayed alive. But again, Taira was in control with the grappling majority of the round, but damage, and in my mind, basically a knockout. It goes 1-1. So round 3, Josh was confident. He started marching at Tatsuro, letting his hands fly. Beautiful combo after beautiful combo. And Tatsuro shot takedowns. He tried to chain wrestle a little bit too much from distance, but he probably wasn't all there. He was just trying to stay alive. He clearly wasn't recovered. But Van had Taira rocked so badly, he got a takedown of his own, and he tried to go for a submission. He went for a choke, didn't have the hooks in. Dumb idea. He's just young, confident, and cocky. He wanted to submit the submission guy. He realized it wasn't going to happen, so he stood Taira up, kept working his boxing. But that was such a dominant round. I had it 10-8, and so did 2 of the judges. So I actually had Van up 2-1 with the extra point, which makes this fight interesting. So at this point, I'm like, round 4, Tyra's done for. He's gassed. Well, round 4, Tyra showed the heart and fight of an absolute fucking warrior. He did not crumble. He's continued to throw strikes of his own, even though he's getting pieced up. He didn't have very good head movement. When he throws, he's just like a statue. You do that with Van, who's coming in and out and circling around you. It's just, you're too open. And if you've never tried fighting, I'm not a skilled fighter. I would like to do kickboxing eventually to learn a little bit more. But the biggest thing you got to do is have head movement with guys that have hand speed like this and skills like that. Either way, so yeah, 2-2. Van has a point advantage in my book. So if Tyra wins, again, the fact that he was able to come back and win round 4, absolutely insane. If Tyra somehow wins round 5, which had me on the edge of my seat, this is a draw. And I'm pretty sure that's how it would have played out. Because Van has been really dominant in this fight. He's damn near finished Tyra multiple times. But the way the fight works, you win the rounds. That's how it works. So the takeaways so far going into the championship round, we know that Tatsuro has great grappling. He didn't have as much success as I thought. He never got in overpowering positions to do damage or submission threats. But a lot of that has to do with the grappling defense of Van. And again, he has a pretty bad injured knee. That's insane. Just shows you how high level he can get or already is. But when striking, Van is just so fucking fluid, man. He's so powerful. I mean, I think he's one of the best skilled strikers in flyweight history already at 24 years old. And, he knows that Tatsuro is not moving his head. The only time Tatsuro moved his head is when he was faking to change levels with his feints or actually changing levels. So even then, you could uppercut, look up for knees up the middle. Definitely something Tatsuro needs to work on. But when you're knocked out in round 2, how much are you even there? Like, I've never been in a position fighting 25 minutes, which I could not do, obviously. I mean, I'm not in that shape. To be pretty much knocked out and even have the wherewithal of what the fuck to do or where you're at, like, how crazy is this, right? That's why this is fight of the night. Way over-delivered my expectations. But regardless, Van is able to try to headhunt him here in round 5. Well, in round 5, Van was putting it on Tyra. He sat him down again. But this time, the official called. I know some people in Tyra, he's a warrior. He fought back. You win this round. You think you have a chance. Hey, it's an early stoppage. Truly, I think it was a good stoppage. You're saving a young fighter from fucking brain damage. The damage that Van put on Tatsuro, not many people are surviving. I think a lot of it has to do with how young Tatsuro is, how good shape he is, and how big he is as a frame for the division. Because, nobody else is going to last that long. I understand from Tyra's perspective, you have to be mad. How much heart and grit you've showcased throughout this fight. If you're going to be finished, you want to truly be finished. But he did lose the fight. Best case scenario, he gets a draw. He did not have enough left in the tank. I mean, this was pretty early in round 5. I think he put all of his energy in round 4, which he had to in those takedown attempts. But regardless, fantastic fucking fight. 2 insanely skilled fighters. And I think these two eventually fight again. And now after this showcase, it's hard for me to think Van actually loses to Pantoja. He's 36 years old, coming off that major injury. I love Pantoja. I thought he would have beat Van if they actually fought. I think he's one of the flyweight goats. You could debate that he is. But Tatsuro got pieced up, and Van, I really do think, is on trajectory to be one of the best flyweights of all time. That's not some crazy take. That's pretty obvious. He's clearly confident, got a little cockiness to him right now. But Tatsuro made this a fun fight to watch, was very impressive in many ways, but really needs to work on his striking and head movement because there's a lot of good flyweight strikers that are too fast, and if they could defend takedowns, he's going to get caught if he doesn't. But again, was some of that because he was basically a ghost trying to survive. But Japan is going to continue to have to wait for its first UFC champion. I honestly think Joshua showcased, again, he could be a world champion boxer. But how good of mixed martial artists are these guys? If you watch the Embeddeds, you watch the Ariel Helwani show, I mean, these guys are probably not eating bad ever. a little bit of, we're all human. They have their cheat days. But Van's going to church. He's very family-oriented. Tatsuro's doing the same. Tatsuro moved to the States to try to improve himself. These guys could be one of the most interesting stories in MMA history. I'm sure we will see much more of them. But look at the stats here. Joshua landed 190 total strikes while being taken down as much as he did, with 131 of them significant. He had a takedown of his own in 2 attempts. That's still crazy to me. 2 submission attempts, 2 knockdowns, and 1 minute and 21 seconds of control time. And Tatsuro landed 100 total strikes, only 55 significant. He had 8 takedowns and 21 attempts. Good amount of takedowns, a lot of energy that Van just burned. To be able to shoot 21 attempts, most of those happening after you were basically knocked out, savage. That's all I can say. He did have 10 minutes and 38 seconds of control time, which really led him to winning rounds 1 and 4. So Joshua extends his winning streak to 7. He's 10-1 in the UFC. Tatsuro ends that 2-fight winning streak. He starts a new losing streak. He's 3-2 since 2024 and stays at number 3 in the rankings. I can't wait for Joshua Van and Alexandre Pantoja. No doubt that's next. I know both fighters have said stuff. It's clearly the next fight. And for Tatsuro, I think it's realistic. He fights the loser of the Manel Kopp Kyoji Horiguchi fight because I think Brandon Royval and Yoni Kavanaugh are going to be booked next. And that set us up for a main event not many people, including myself, saw coming. This was a fight I got wrong. We had Sean Strickland with a split decision victory over Khamzat Chimaev. Lots of drama here. These two have trained together. Their teams are obviously very close. I had a feeling the bad blood and the trash talk was all an act to sell the fight, but it made it so dramatic, worth tuning into. When Sean made it to round 2, the crowd went nuts. When Khamzat pulled guard, the crowd went fucking nuts. There's videos inside the arena of the crowd once they announced the winner, absolutely fucking loud. John Anik said, I don't know if I've ever heard a crowd this loud. Everyone just kind of is rooting for the underdog here. In my perspective, I've been kind of a Khamzat hater. I do think he's legit, but how long do we want champions like this that are just going to try to, lay on people basically? Like that DDP fight, brutal to me. I love grappling. Like I enjoyed the Charles Oliveira fight, strategy-wise, just the complete domination. So I do like grappling. I'm not against it, but we don't need a bunch of Khamzat Chimaevs is my point. So clearly the trash talk was an act. But this was one of the more hyped fights I've seen in a long time. Mostly because Khamzat has not been defeated. He did beat Kamaru Usman, although short notice. A fight like this, I think Usman wins, but that's a big moment for him. But a lot of people are saying Sean has the style that could be victorious against Khamzat. Clearly that was the case, but they touched gloves. Sean even apologized after the fight, saying he went too far. I agree with that. He said, but I'm trying to sell it for you fuckers. A lot of people have been knocking Ariel Helwani, but I agree. Like, you don't need to bring up family, race, those types of things. Khamzat, he's a true gentleman and I think a kind heart deep down. And, I don't knock him for, forgiving Sean. I think they're friends at the end of the day. I think Khamzat knew this was all an act. But it worked. I mean, at the end of the day, what they did, it worked. But before the fight, there was more drama. The weigh-in. Chimaev weighed in last minute as a main eventer. Usually you're the first to weigh in. I thought there was going to be an issue with his performance because of this. Is this true? We don't know, but I'm going to assume it's true. If people are coming out and saying this, why would you lie? I do know that there was rumors circulating that Khamzat before this fight was actually going to be moved up to light heavyweight division and was going to fight Yuri for that interim title. I think Carlos performed, Sean performed. They said, what are we doing? Carlos needs to fight for the light heavyweight title. Let's let Khamzat defend it. Sean looks fantastic. There's a story arc here. Let's sell it. Well, supposedly Khamzat had been bulking up like Max Holloway did going up, doing it the right way. He's weighing like 240 pounds. They tell him he's fighting Sean Strickland. It's hard to cut down. He was like 25 pounds like 2 days before that he still had to cut. Then there's the drama of the weight scale. And did he actually make weight? I don't know how the UFC could pull off getting the commission who owns the weights to say, hey, we need him to make weight or this fight's off. Like, I don't know how they could convince them. That's some black market shit. So I'm going to assume that that's not possible. UFC is under TKO. That's a public company. There could be a lot of issues if that's the case. So I'm going to assume Khamzat did make weight. About killed him. That's why it took so long. And it did play a part in his gas tank being empty. Then there is announced that Sean Strickland actually had separated his shoulder sparring Johnny Eblen. We'll break down the fight here in a second, but he never threw crosses. It was just jab, jab, jab. He won it the way he threw a couple. But in the Anthony Hernandez, which was surprising, he was actually throwing with power with those combos. Well, if you have a separated shoulder and now he has like 4 injuries that he's released, that could be a huge part. Regardless, to say, both guys, the weight issue, fucking battled, almost won the fight. Sean Strickland took down Khamzat Chimaev with one fucking arm and defended takedowns and got one of his own. Dude, between this and the co-main, like, what the fuck? What else do you want? The drama, the craziness, the determination of these guys to just fucking keep going. Most people would give up, they would tap out, or they would get finished. All right. So, I don't like to give either guy excuses. I don't want to give Khamzat excuses. But if those things are true, you got to give them credit. But you knew in the first round, Khamzat was going to get a takedown, and he did it fairly easily. But you knew where this fight was trending when Sean was able to survive that round. The entire round on his back, and Khamzat never really put Sean in true danger. He did have a pretty nice face crank. Hey, some people are like, oh, he just had a face crank, didn't even get under the neck. He took Robert Whittaker, who I think very highly of, former champion, down and literally smashed his jaw so hard he pushed his teeth in. I'm sure that face crank wasn't great, but I'm sure he found the angle. He's used to it. He's been practicing with Johnny Eblen, world-class grappler. He trains at Extreme Couture. He's prepared for it. But he was able to survive, wasn't really put in true danger. All right, I was trying to live bet Sean Strickland, but they actually had Sean, the favorite, go at the start of round 2 once the odds opened in the app. I think it was in FanDuel. So I never did make the live bet, but I was hoping, I'm like, man, if I get plus 300 or better, I'm going to live bet it. Well, round 2, Sean plotted forward, had that Philly shell, jab, jab, jab. You know, Khamzat was so exhausted from trying to finish Sean that later in the round, he actually pulled guard. Again, mind blown, what the fuck is going on? I was like, dude, Sean is going to coast to victory. He's going to jab Khamzat the rest of the fight, hopefully throw some more powers to follow up with those combos, not knowing that his shoulder was injured. He's going to maybe even get a finish. I actually, after watching this back, I watched it back like 2.5 times. I think Khamzat pulled guard because he was trying to preserve energy. He's like, if I just keep going, I'm going to be too tired. This weight cut's killing me. I'm just going to try to preserve as much energy as possible to stack it up for the later rounds. I think that was his methodology. Either way, absolute insanity. We have this fight 1-1 going into round 3. And in round 3, Khamzat seemed to actually catch that second wind. Again, I think he was preserving energy. And he started coming at Sean, winging some big shots. I've said this before. I think previously in other weight classes, Khamzat was kind of able to weight bully guys. I don't think his striking is very high level. At this point, is it ever going to get there? I think it's too late. He just knows that he could take guys down and win that way. But it seemed like he broke Sean's nose in this fight in round 3. He landed more volume. Sean landed more volume with the straight kicks, not just the jab, had the teep kicks. And it looked like Sean's face was just peppered from all those strikes. It was bloodied and beaten down a little bit, but Sean's nose at this point was fucked up because when Khamzat threw it, was definitely with some more zest on it. But this was a close round. The volume edged to Sean, so I had a 2-1 Sean going into round 4. Now this round was a lot of the same to start, but the question for me was, Khamzat, is he going to try to wrestle again? Well, he really didn't. He didn't attempt a takedown after early in round 2. He just kind of came at Sean, pushing him backwards. You know, Sean kept landing that jab. He was able to angle himself and jab. But I think a lot of people aren't getting credit of how cleanly those jabs land. Is it a big power punch? Does it rock him? No, but when you're walking into a stiff jab and you're just doing this and it comes through, like, it definitely fucks you up a little bit. I mean, look at Khamzat's face after the fight. But he got a beautifully timed takedown to steal the round at the end. I think with the power that he threw, I had it 2-2 going into round 5. I think most people are on the same page. I think Sean attempting to get the grappling and being on top a little bit and wrestling Khamzat, I think Khamzat was preserving energy for round 5 again. I think Sean actually tired himself out with some of the grappling. And Khamzat almost seemed to be the fresher fighter in round 5. Did not have that on my scorecards, especially after him pulling guard at the end of round 2. But as much success that Sean had landing his jab, he never followed up with overpowering strikes. He wasn't throwing nice, powerful combos like he did in that Hernandez fight. But again, the shoulder injury makes sense. Round 5 was an absolute war between two exhausted men that were bloodied and beaten down. But Khamzat wanted to win with his grappling. He did have some good control time in the round. But the tide turned again. Once Sean got back up, he kept hitting that jab like he's sparring Khamzat. Almost kind of broke Chimaev. I think he had Khamzat wobbled there and he didn't follow up. Maybe because of energy, maybe because his shoulder's absolutely fucked. But yeah, I think he could have finished Khamzat if he had something to throw at him. But I don't think he realized that he had him as rocked as he did in round 5. Because I think he could have got the finish there. Regardless, this is my thing, and this has really helped John Jones. They usually say you have to beat the champ to be the champ. And this was so close, I wouldn't be upset if Khamzat won the fight. But it was fucking badass to see Sean do this to Khamzat. No one's done it. Gives Khamzat his first pro loss. Helps the division avoid another smothering grappling. And for me, it was meant to be. You know, Khamzat told Dana immediately he wants to go to light heavyweight. I just don't know with his frame how he would do it light heavyweight. It's so shallow. You know, he could grapple his way to at least the title contention, top 3 over and over. But who would have thought Sean fucking Strickland would win this by hanging in there? Great grappling defense, getting a takedown and grappling Khamzat. I think a lot of that, again, is energy preservation by Khamzat. But mostly the skills to get back up, stay calm throughout the entire fight, being in bad positions, and just doing what he does, sparring hours and hours and hours of. Insane fucking night, insane fight. I absolutely loved every second of it. I don't think Khamzat got robbed. Again, the only thing for me is you got to clearly beat the champ to be the champ. When you're jabbing a guy, are you clearly beating him? No, but I scored this for Sean as well. Looking at the stats, Khamzat landed 137 total strikes, 98 of them significant. He had 9 takedowns and 13 attempts. When he had the energy too, he got him. He had 7 minutes and 16 seconds of control time. I don't think Khamzat's ever took someone down that many times, because usually he controls them. But to take Sean down 9 times and only have 7 minutes of control time, more than about a round and a half, nobody's done that. Sean landed 160 total strikes, 123 of them significant. So 23 more total, 25 more significant. He was 0 for 1 in takedowns with 3 minutes and a second of control time. But Sean extends his winning streak to 2. He is 3-2 since 2024. Who would thought he'd be a 2-time middleweight champion, defeating Israel Adesanya, upset of the year. Now Khamzat Chimaev. Holy shit, what metaverse are we living in? Khamzat ends that 14-fight winning streak. He suffers his first pro loss. He is now the #1 contender. And it has since been said from Khamzat and his team throughout the week that he wants an immediate rematch with Sean in Abu Dhabi. Sean is saying he doesn't want to do it. I'm trying to put my UFC brass head on. With how much this fight sold, but how much they showed their cards of an act this was, how big of a seller would be the second fight by how big this one is? Is it bigger than what they do with Khamzat at light heavyweight? If Khamzat's going to go to light heavyweight, where do they put him? I mean, I think they give him, with the light heavyweight division, the immediate interim title shot against Carlos Ulberg, or against somebody, while Carlos Ulberg is managing his injury. Because there's no clear definitive thing. And I think you put him against Paulo Costa, there's a lot of blood there. I think that sells better than Strickland 2, but I think that this is a good opportunity. Plus, Nasruddin Imavov obviously deserves to fight, but he defeated Sean. So do they want the potential of Imavov to be the middleweight champion, or do they think that Paulo Costa Khamzat sells that well? Well, I'm going to go that Sean fights Nasruddin Imavov. I think with the shoulder, he might be out for a while. He said on social media he's going to walk this one off. I'm not sure what that means. If your shoulder's that fucked up, I would assume you need to get it fixed, but maybe it takes too long. I don't know. There's a lot of question marks here, but I'm going with Sean, Nasruddin 2, and Khamzat versus Paulo Costa at 205 for the light heavyweight interim title. There's going to be a lot of drama here, but all the UFC needs is Sean to be out for a while, have Khamzat on the shelf. But if he can't make weight, why the fuck are we going to wait and hold up the division? So that's why I think it goes that way. Regardless, every fight on here besides the Pat Sabatini fight, not knocking him, I'd have done the same thing. Bangers. What a fucking night. Jose Ochoa, this guy's a fucking stud. Susarkayev improving, shows his potential. Pat Sabatini is getting a win. William Gomez is going to be a stud. Roman Kopylov, try to tell y'all. Marco Tulio, stud as well. Jim fucking Miller, still doing it. Grant Dawson. Yaroslav Amosov, I mean, this guy could be fighting for a title soon. Ottaba Gautier is going to be a unit. King fucking Green, still swinging. Sean Brady, I try to tell y'all moment for him. Volkov still in contention. Joshua Van is the fucking truth, and Sean Strickland. Well, this weekend, not quite the same. We go back to the Meta Apex or Fight Night Vegas 117. Prelims at 2 p.m. Pacific, main card 5 p.m. Pacific, all on Paramount Plus. To preview this card, I mean, the card has an all right main card. There's a couple fun prelim fights. I really do think the main event is pulling the weight here. But some of the fights could over-deliver. They could, be better than what they look on paper. But there's been a lot of drama this week, lots of last-minute changes. I think it puts even more of a damper on this. There's a lot of short notice action. So I'm previewing this only a 5 out of 10. So here's some of the drama and some good fights we will not break down. We have Trey Ogden out of his fight. So Fury FC alum Artur Minev is going to take on Contender Series alum Thomas Gant. I think Thomas Gant wrestles his way to victory. Pretty solid fight. We have Tuco Tacos taking on Ivan Urslan. Two power, kind of non-super technical fighters. We have Nicholas Dalby out in his fight against Jeremiah Wells. They couldn't get him a short notice replacement. That fight's scrapped. And then just a couple days ago, we had Rodolfo Bolado out of his fight against Modestas Bukauskas. I actually was going to break down that fight. So Christian Edwards is now fighting Modestas at a catchweight 215. But we'll kick this off in the prelims. This fight basically sums up what this card is. We get Cody Brundage, 31 years old with an 11-9-1 record, taking on Andre Petroski, 34 years old with a 13-6 record. Now these two are pretty much bound together as they are similarly skilled. It's just Cody likes to die on his sword as a striker, and Andre definitely, they both have good grappling, but Andre relies on that grappling and controlling fights with it. But they both can do both, they just typically don't. I hope Andre stands and trades with Cody because that would make this way more fun. But I do think he goes for takedowns, tries to test Cody in that department. Breaking it down, Cody has an orthodox stance. He trains at a Factory X with a brown belt in BJJ. He has a D2 wrestling background at a Newberry College. He's a Contender Series and LFA alum. He's on a 3-fight losing streak. He's won 4-2 since 2024. 6 of his 11 wins are via knockout. 3 of his 9 losses also via knockout. So to knock out or be knocked out. Now Andre trains out of Renzo Gracie, Philly. He's got a brown belt in BJJ. He's an LFA and Ultimate Fighter alum. He's on a 2-fight losing streak and even 3-3 since 2024. 4 of his 13 wins are via knockout, 4 via submission. So 8 of his 13 wins via finish, and 4 of his 5 losses are also via knockout. This is going to be a chaotic showcase with wild shit happening that you're like, what the fuck? Not the most technical fight. Cody is going to want to turn this into a brawl, make it ugly, while Andre is going to look to pressure Cody and strike into takedowns and control the distance. This fight is a toss-up, but it hasn't seemed like Cody has had much fire in him. I kind of feel like he's out here just trying to get paychecks as long as he can. I hope he shows up, but a loss here will probably be the end of his UFC career. And he's just entering his prime at 31. So who knows? But I'm taking Andre Petroski. I'm avoiding this on any parlays where possible. Moving on, we have Ketlin Phenomeno Vieta, 34 years old with a 15-5 record and the number 5 next to her name. Taking on Jacqueline Cavalcanti, 28 years old with a 10-1 record and the number 11 next to her name. Why this is not on the main card, 2 top-ranked fighters, I'm not sure. I know that people don't give women's MMA credit, but this is a good fight. I mean, the bantamweight division is just trying to inject new blood in the top. Jacqueline has a huge chance. This is the biggest fight of her career. Her best win is against Mayra Buena Silva, and she hasn't looked dominant or good at all since she got caught for cheating. Wonder if that was enhancing, obviously. But Ketlin lost a battle against a very good Norma Dumont. You know, she's fought stiff competition since 2021 against a bunch of former champions. I just think Ketlin has more paths to victory, and she's going to look to, keep it going, but she's nearing 35. She's got to get a win here. Breaking it down, Ketlin has a black belt in BJJ and judo. She has the highest takedown percentage in women's bantamweight history at 88.9%. She's tied with Juliana Pena for third most wins in bantamweight with 8. The second most total fight time in bantamweight, 3 hours, 19 minutes, 7 seconds. That's behind Raquel Pennington. She has the third longest average fight time in bantamweight history at 15 minutes, 19 seconds. She's tied with Raquel Pennington for most split decision wins in bantamweight with 3. She's tied with Raquel Pennington, Carol Hossa, and Yana Santos for third most decision wins in bantamweight with 7. She's on a 1-fight losing streak and is 2-3 since 2023. Now, Jacqueline is a PFL, UAE Warriors, an LFA alum and former champion. She's on an 8-fight winning streak, 4-0 since 2024. I mean, it is what it is. Both of these women fight to very close decisions. I expect this to be that. Ketlin has fought better competition. She has the experience advantage. I think she has better grappling, and that it's going to be a big difference in this fight. If Jacqueline can keep the fight standing, she can outpoint Ketlin. That's still a tough task. I do think it'll probably be a split decision, but I think Ketlin steals around with her grappling or finds an opportunity to, maybe not get a takedown, but find a way to get on top from a leg sweep, something of that nature. For that reason, I'm taking Ketlin Vieta. I'm taking the underdog, the dogs coming to eat. But I'm avoiding this on any parlays possible. Now into the main card. This is much like the Cody Brundage fight. This fight is bonkers, man. We got Timmy Twilight Kwamba, 27 years old with a 10-3 record, taking on Bernardo the Lion King Sopa, 25 years old with a 12-3 record. Now, Bernardo is a young and talented but very raw bantamweight. Timmy's a wild child. He's fought some very chaotic fights. I don't expect this to be any different. I expect a high-pace, chaos, back-and-forth war. The winner of this fight obviously is going to be in much better position. Both men aren't quite in their primes yet, but you need a win here. Breaking this down, Timmy is a Cage Fury, Icon FC, Tough Enough, and Contender Series alum. He's on a 2-fight winning streak, 2-2 in the UFC. 5 of his 10 wins are via knockout. He has a 5-inch reach advantage and a 3-inch leg reach advantage. Now, Bernardo is a Brave alum. He's on a 1-fight winning streak, 1-1 in the UFC. 7 of his 12 wins are via knockout, 3 via submission, so 10 of his 12 wins via finish. Now, personally, I think Bernardo will have the striking advantage when it comes to technicality, speed, and power. So I do think Timmy goes for a fair share of takedown attempts, but he needs to use his length to an advantage, so hopefully he doesn't just resort to grappling. But Kwama, for me, has really had some bad IQ moments in his fights. I don't think he's going to fight smart here. He's had guys rocked and grappled him. He's, just put himself in terrible positions, position over submission. I just can't trust him at this point, to be honest. So I think Bernardo is going to find openings, take advantage of that, and potentially get a late finish. For that reason, I'm taking Bernardo Sopa, but I'm avoiding this on any parlays possible. This card is just a fucking chaotic mess. But the funny thing is if you watch MVP and you watch this, you're going to be like, why the fuck did I waste my time watching MVP? Honestly, the fight product-wise, it ain't going to compare. Then I was going to break down Modestas Bukakis, Rodolfo Bellato. I had Modestas winning that. I think he wins his short notice opponent. But then we have Malcolm the Machine Wellmaker, 31 years old with a 10-1 record, taking on Juan Pagajoso Diaz, 27 years old. It says 1-0. Let's see. What the fuck? Definitely not 1-0. Pagajoso, I wonder how you say his nickname. He is 15-1-1 as a pro. Correct that. Let's see if these are. Let's see. They have Malcolm as a underdog. I know that he lost to Ethan Ewing, got pieced up, but like the underdog? Come on. Oh no, he's the favorite now. Huh. I swear he was the underdog at one point. That makes more sense. Now I feel like I'm not an idiot. Well, Malcolm, he had a huge welcome to the UFC moment. Then he got checked by Ethan Ewing on short notice, but he has proven to be very skilled. Now he gets a young and hungry hard hitter. He's coming off a fantastic Contender Series victory. Juan himself is a good striker, also has pretty solid grappling. That's going to be the big story in this fight. If Diaz just controls the fight with grappling, it'll be a tough night for Malcolm, but I think he's learned his lessons. Breaking this down, Malcolm is an Icon FC and Contender Series alum. He's on a one-fight losing streak, 3-1 in the UFC. 6 of his 10 wins are via knockout. Now, Juan trains out of Entrum Gym. He's a Contender Series alum. He's on an 8-fight winning streak, 1-0 in the UFC. 5 of his 10 wins are via knockout. Again, the story here is Malcolm going to avoid being taken down. If he can, this is going to be one hell of a this is going to be chaos. You got the Timmy Kwama fight, the Cody. I mean, this could low-key be a banger of a card, or it could be just terrible. It's going to be sloppy. It's going to be chaos. But if people are so high on the fucking new heavyweight, what the fuck's his name? Oh, he's fighting Derek Lewis. Whatever that fucking guy's name is, if they enjoyed that sloppy chaos, this card's for you. This is absolutely for you. But I am going to take Malcolm Wellmaker. I'm avoiding that on a parlay. I don't know enough about Juan Diaz. His Contender Series fight doesn't come to my mind. I didn't do film study on him. I just know that he's a solid striker, well-rounded. It's going to be a fun one. Talk about chaos. This fight's exactly that. These next 2 fights are exactly that. We have Duho, the Korean Superboy Choi, 35 years old with a 16-4-1 record, taking on Daniel Willie Cat Santos, 31 years old with a 14-2 record. Again, what makes this card fun is matchups like this. Honestly, this card could surprise all of us. Sorry, I'm pulling up the odds again. Apparently they changed. We get 2 men in their primes, 35 and 31, chaotic fighting styles, have a history of high-paced chaos. That's exactly what's going to happen here. Breaking it down, Duho, 5 of his 9 UFC fights in totality have been fight of the night or performance of the night. He fucking shows up, he shows out. I love it. He's on a 2-fight winning streak, 2-0-1 since 2023. He hasn't been active. Can't remember if it was COVID and visa issues or if he was injured or what, but he's kind of been a little bit of an anomaly. 13 of his 16, or he's on a 2-fight winning streak, 2-0-1 since 2023. 13 of his 16 wins are via knockout. 2 of his 4 losses are also via knockout. So to knock out or be knocked out. He also has a 3-inch reach advantage. Now, Daniel trains out of Shootbox Diego Lima. He's a Thunder Fight, Future FC, and Brave alum. He's on a 4-fight winning streak, and 6 of his 13 wins are via knockout. Now, this fight, much like majority of the card, is going to come down to if Choi can defend takedowns and keep the fight standing. If Choi can keep the fight standing, I think he will be the better striker. I think he has more finish potential. And who knows, maybe Choi looks for some takedowns of his own. He's been known to do that. But see, I realized I wasn't an idiot. This at one point, Doo Ho was the underdog, but now he's on average a minus 150 favorite. So hell yeah, I'm taking Doo Ho Choi. We are putting him on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. It's crazy how much the odds can move in a week. I did this on Monday. Then in the main event, what a fucking main event we get here. We have Arnold Almighty Allen, 32 years old with a 20-4 record and the number 7 next to his name, taking on Melquizil the Dalmatian Costa, 29 years old with a 26-7 record and the number 12 next to his name. I mean, this fight right here levels above what we'll see on the MVP card. I mean, on paper, this is a striker versus grappler showdown, but Melky is coming off back-to-back first-round knockouts against very high-level competition. So I'm curious to see if he just believes he's a striker now. He gets overzealous trying to walk Arnold down and deliver those big, powerful kicks. He's put on a display of big, powerful body and head kicks since Bilal Muhammad made his run to the title. Because if he does, Arnold could find a way to be elusive and box the shit out of him. One thing I haven't talked about that people forget with the Apex, it is a smaller octagon, but Melky's fought at the Apex plenty of times, so I don't think that's as big of a deal. But when you're trying to close the distance and have that, now you're in the short of the octagon, Arnold could transition, pop, 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 pop. So I'm really excited for this fight. It's going to be awesome. But yeah, is Melky going to try to stick to what he does best, or is he just going to try to knock out Arnold? I think that's a big mistake. But if Melky mixes in the takedowns early and often, I think he's going to have his way. You know, Jean Silva was able to take Arnold down. I think Melky's much better in that department. So it's very intriguing. Breaking this down, Arnold trains out of TriStar. He's got a black belt in BJJ. He has the 3rd longest win streak in UFC featherweight history with 10. He's a Cage Warriors alum. He's on a 1-fight losing streak, 1-3 since 2023. And 7 of his 20 wins are via knockout. Now, Melquizil trains out of Shootbox Calmilio. He's a Titan FC, Thunder Fight, and LFA alum. He's on a 6-fight winning streak. 9 of his 26 wins are via knockout, 8 via submission, so 17 of his 26 wins via finish. Now, for me, the biggest difference in this fight is that Melky is full of confidence. He should trust his skills. He's on one hell of a fucking winning streak. I think I picked against him in all 3 of these fights, but he has wins over Dan Ige, Morgan Scherer, and Andre Fili. You know, Arnold has been dealing with injuries and time off. I feel like when I saw him fight at the first Paramount card in Vegas, he just doesn't seem to have his confidence that he had. When he was fighting Max Holloway, he was on that win streak. He seemed like a fucking world beater. I mean, he's fought the best in the world. You got to give him credit. You know, he lost to a very good John Silva. It was a close fight. But I do think a lot of what Silva had success with, Costa will as well. You know, Costa likes to bring the pressure. He's going to force Arnold to fight back and push him back, which Arnold needs to be game for that. Because if Costa's over-swinging, or if Arnold's over-swinging when he gets caught in a battle, Costa is going to make him pay, get takedowns. He's tough to deal with when he's on top. You know, he might not be a Sean Brady, but he's still fucking good. I'm a big Arnold Allen fan. I think he's more skilled as a striker than Costa. I just hope Arnold can have that swagger back, box the shit out of Costa, be confident in his abilities. I'm not betting on that right now. I've been back and forth all week, but I am taking the underdog. Melquizil is about a plus 120 underdog on average. The dog's coming to eat. Ho, ho. But I am not putting this on any parlays. I think I might do a little bit of an underdog parlay later. But hey, we get more action this weekend. Again, this is a pure chaotic card. Anything is possible. Some of these short notice fights, fighters we don't have a lot of intel on, it could be a banger. That sets us up for next week. We have Memorial Day weekend off. I'm going to be in the Philippines. I fly out this evening, late night flight, like a 16-hour flight. I have a layover in Taipei, Korea. Never been. This is mind-blowing experience for me. I can't wait to talk about it and just be there and experience it and de-stress. But we get the Memorial Day weekend off, so I'm actually going to preview the UFC Macau China card because that's an early morning card, prime time in China. Solid fight night card. The headliner's a blast. 5th ranked Song Yadong, 7th ranked Divas and Figueiredo. And then I will recap this Apex card when I come back and get on regular scheduled programming. But that's episode 146. I'm your host, Shane Gillette. See you next week.